Good day, professor. In this case, I talk about the workshop 4 from the subject Vehicle Engineering. I'm Ramos Tomalonjo. Well, before to explain the workshop 4, I talk some objectives from this workshop. The first objective is identify main commands using in the Dynamics software. Another is load a full heavy truck vehicle from the library. Another is analyze and identify commands to evaluate heavy truck behaviors, okay? And finally, simulate a steering system using standard measures. Okay, continuing with the workshop. In the step 1 is about the explore some menu options. For example, here you can see the options from the add-ons card. This is very important because on the next workshops, with this option, you can change some works. Okay, in the step 2 is activate manager plugin systems. This is important before to start the workshop 4 because you will to activate a manager plugin system from the heavy truck. To activate this is first you go to a menu option, select tools, and then plugin manager. After that, it's appear a box. On this box, you can click on load and activate the yes, okay? And finally, press OK. On the step 3 is to create a full vehicles assembly. From this part, you go to a menu options, select file, then open and select assembly. After that is appear a box. On this box, you right click on the text box, okay? And select search. And then you will to select track share, assemblies point TBL. And finally, select the MCSEC tractor semi-trailer, okay? And press OK. And after this, you will have a heavy truck. It's beautiful. Okay. Okay. Continuing with the step 4 is about the verified system units. This is very important because your truck is in some units. You will work on this workshop with millimeter, kilogram, newton, seconds, degrees, and hertz. Okay. This is very important. On the step 5 is about a simulate full vehicle system. For these parts, you go to menu options, select simulate, and from the open loop steering events, select the full vehicle analysis. Sorry, the single lane change. After that, you will have a text. On this part, you modify 2 tests. On the first test is you complete with on the end time with 10. The output prefix on this part is test 1. The number of steps is 100. And on this test is important the velocity because we will work with 16 kilometers per hour. Maximum start value is 16. And the start time 1 and the cycle length is 2. And after that you press OK. After that you will work the same step, but on this part you modify another test. On this part is the test 2. The output prefix is test 2. The end time number of steps is the same. This part the only change the initial velocity. On this part is 18 kilometers per hour. This is important to after that you compare the simulation about this. Step 6, animating analysis results. On this part you go to options, press review, and then you will click on animating controls. After that disappear the animating controls and select play. You can see after that you can see the maneuvers who do the track. Okay, continuing with the workshop 4, on the step 7 is about the plotting and analyze result from the test 1 and the test 2. Okay, for this part you will to press the F8 and it's appear this box. On this box you have on simulation the test 1 and the test 2. After that you will add the curves from the request and the component. On the request you will select the tractor acceleration on the component ladder and the trailer acceleration with the same component. And this is the same for the test 2. Okay, after that, you go to compare and explain the plotting results. Okay, on this part, you will see the course about the test one and the test two. Who is the tractor acceleration lateral, who is the color red, and the trailer acceleration lateral, who is the color blue. And it's the same for the test two. Okay, and okay, we'll go to explain. On this case, I will to explain the behaviors between the test one and the test two. First, about the velocity. In the test 2, the velocity is more than the test 1. This is to change some behaviors during the simulation. If you're recording the step 5, it's about the simulate full, no, sorry, the step 5, where you change the velocity initial. On the test 1 was 60 kilometers per hour, and the test 2 is 80. These values change the curves from the test 1 and the test 2. Okay, in the test 1, we can see variations between the positive and negative quadrants of the J axis respectively. And the question is why? This is because during the simulation of test 1 and 2, it was observed that the tractor made a curve. This is for this part. And in the test 2, the plotting is completely different. We can see that the trailer acceleration is more. The trailer acceleration is the color blue, okay? Is more than the test 1. Why? This is due to the fact that during the assignation of parameters of the test 2, the velocity was modified, increasing these respectively, so that the behaviors of this parameter increased. Okay, workshop questions. Is there any relation between the rollover and steering system in the heavy trucks behaviors? For this part is to help with these graphs. Yes, okay. Yes, there are relationship between these criteria. Why? Because when the driver making a quick steering maneuver to avoid an expected obstacle in the road ahead, these problems are manifested in a tendency for the rear trailer to have much larger lateral response. This is because when you do these abrupt maneuvers, somehow you make the lateral acceleration increase and affect the load that you carry in your lane. For example, this part, who is the acceleration trailer increase. And affect, okay, tending to the trailer to roll over. This we call the rear wheel amplification, which later we will explain together with the equation. Okay, on this part you can see the rear wheel amplification equation. Okay, the question 2. What kind of consequence produces higher velocity in lane change maneuvers? On this case, we can support this question with a plotting and comparison between in the test 1 and the test 2. Because in the simulation, the velocity from the test 2 was increased than the test 1 during a lane change. What kind of consequences affect this? Okay, we observed that when you increase the velocity during a lane change, the lateral acceleration increase. This parameter increase makes the rollover more likely. And if we don't control this velocity, when you change lanes, it's more likely to occur a rollover accident. Okay. How does influence size and weight variables on the stability and control properties of heavy truck? The weight and the size of trailer means that if it affects the stability of this, because during a cornering, a side force and vertical force, in this case is the weight, this part, acting on the truck. As we know, the force of gravity depends on science, and if we have a very high gravity force, at the same inclination during a turn, it is easier for the trailer to still affecting the stability because the side force it will have more lever, and this force depending from the weight of track and lateral acceleration. Okay, the final question. Problem, sorry. From plotting results, estimate rear wheel amplification for both cases. Compare and explain values obtained. From this part, you will use the equation rear amplification, who is lateral acceleration between lateral of the trailer above the tractor. The trailer is the color blue and the tractor is the color red. Okay, on the test 1, you will use the 60 kilometers per hour and the test 2 is 80 kilometers per hour. And the rear amplification from the test 1 is 0.92 and the test 2 is 1.6. For the test 1, the rear amplification when we obtain it is 0.92. This value means that the rear trailer is 0.92 of probability of rollover like the tractor. And we could say that this rear amplification doesn't tend to have a rollover when driving with that velocity. And finally, from the test 2, we can see that the rear amplification increases from 0.92 to 1.6. when we increase the velocity, another point is that the acceleration lateral trailer is more than the tractor. We could say that with this re-amplification and giving a curve with this velocity, we are more probably to have a rollover and than rollover than driving with a lower velocity. Okay, thank you. Wow.